Alright, so let's say you wanted to rotate every other row, right? Or mirror every other, do some kind of transformation on every other row, either move it or rotate it. You could come in, and if we take a look at a panel here, you can look at the information that's coming out. So basically we have, right, 6 of each one. We're going 6 counts, and we could change it, but it's filling up. If we change this, it'll obviously change the count over there, but doesn't matter. And then what we want to do is we want to split those. Well, there's a command that will called dispatch that will break those into 2 different lists. So if I take this, and the dispatch pattern is true false, so it's 0 1. It's getting every other one, every other one, every other one, so it's splitting it into 2. And if I come in here and take a curve, right, and put this guy up here, it's splitting those into different rows, right? So if I do that, I'm getting every other row. Okay, I can also flip the matrix, which is just like flipping the rows and the columns for the Excel spreadsheet, and if I do that, then I'll get columns, right? So it's just rearranging information. So we'll keep it with the rows here, and then what we want to do is we want to get each one of those in a row and mirror it, right? So it doesn't really matter which row we do. So if we pull this guy here, what we want to do is we want to do a bounding box. We can use a bounding rectangle. It's a puffer fish for each one of these guys. So if I pull this in, it's actually doing a bounding box, right, for each individual series of pieces. And we don't really want to do that. We actually want to, if we graphed it, right, it'll then give us them all in separate little boxes again, right? And so that gives us little tiny individual boxes. And what that allows us to do is get the centroid of each of those boxes. Oops. Let's get the area. And if we do those bounding boxes into the area, it gives us the center of those. And from that, we can make a little YZ plane right here. And then if we bring out the mirror, we want to mirror the geometry, right, which is this geometry with this plane, right? And so now if we get rid of all of this, right, we've got a mirrored geometry there. And then this list B, we preview that. Now we've got sort of a reversal, right? So that's a quick way to go in and do that, and you still have parametric control right over all of this stuff. And you can also pull any other curve in there and it'll put it through that process, right? So starting to understand how this guy works. Let's go ahead, and I got a little time. There's also an array in here. So if I do an array, there's a box array, there's a rectangular array, a linear array. So if I go to the rectangular array, I can take this curve, right, and put the geometry in, and then have an X and a Y count. 2 and 4, and then the cell is a locally defined rectangle. So if I do a rectangle, right, and the X and the Y are going to control the size of that. So if I pull these guys back here, whoop, a little far, let's get back, and I do X and the Y, right? And I pulled that into the cell. Now you're getting, right, this happening and then this happening. So this is basically, this little guy is all, well, partially maybe some of this in here. The thing that you then get, if you get a list, let's do a panel, right? And if I do a panel here, there's all your closed planar curves. They're not in, so if I dispatch these, let's go ahead and dispatch these. All right, list, and do a couple of curves. Pull this guy over here, pull this guy over here. If I dispatch these, it's doing it differently, right? It's doing it every other one from, instead of a list of lists, it's doing every other one from a single list. So if you look at the difference in the panels, it breaks up the information quite differently. So single list of things getting every other one, right? And then this guy, right, is a list of lists. So it makes one row and then does another. So the way the information comes in and out is a little different. You kind of have to get used to it, but you can use it to your advantage.